Yeah. But then Ramli and Sharqawi following him, they say there's a difference. So in tayammum, you if it would cause you مشقة لا تحتمل عادة, right? Pain that's not normally bearable, then that would allow you to make tayammum. Whereas, so Romney says it's different because in prayer you can't be so al-khushu' is obviously maqsood in tayammum. That's great because you should be focused on what you're doing. True, but it's not the main focus, right? The main focus is actually purifying yourself for prayer. So actually in prayer, it takes a long time, and so the whole time you're not screaming your head off, but you're almost about to scream your head off. Like it's really, really painful for you to stand up, right? So they say, no, 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 it's not like that. Because if you ask that it can be a pain that's less than that, right? It's a pain that takes away the khushu', you know? So it's now a different discussion. So it's actually easier. The difficulty that would allow you to sit down is actually less than the difficulty that would allow you to make tayammum. Because it's different masala, slightly, you know. So it's tricky. It's tricky. Yeah, fiqh is one of these impossible things. I tell everybody this. I said, I was there. I've seen this. I remember. I don't know how old I was, 16 maybe. The principal of my school, or the deputy head. He pulled me and my two friends in, and said, "You guys are the most intelligent and best achieving students out of everybody. 1,250 students, right?" I was smart, always basically always best at the class. With among Arabs, the same thing. Many times, like I'm in the class, I'm like, yeah, I know more than other people in the class, and I stood out like I know stuff, corrected things. Sheikh, it's not like this. It happened, right? I'm not boasting, but it happened. But fiqh is impossible. Like fiqh is just like super hard. It's really, really difficult.
I don't want to open a can of worms, but if you allow, I have one question related to this. Uh, I'm not sure how to phrase this properly, so excuse me if doesn't come across as respectful towards our scholars,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
how can Fard al knowledge be so hard for someone who has already committed himself to following a madhab? Like, how can it be so difficult sometimes to find daily life Q&As, answers? Like, do you understand do you understand my
Yeah, I understand the
line of
question.
thought? Like
Okay.
how is that possible? We have so many books and they mention so cool things basically, but sometimes it's just really hard to know how to live your daily life sometimes.
Okay. That's so there's two things. Number one, so there's a story that happened with Mawardi, right? Mawardi, he was a qadi and he had to have all these financial issues. So he wrote this book on all these financial issues and he finished it. And he said, Khalas, I've basically solved everything. And then somebody came and asked him a question and he didn't know the answer, right? So it does happen that things are just like limitless. There's all these questions, things that change and things are limitless, and it does happen. The other thing is just we're also in a lull, we're at this low level, right? Like you could imagine, for example, somebody just saying, "Can you please explain this whole thing about der, das, die, can you explain it all to me?" And you're walking the streets of Berlin and nobody knows how to say the word the, like nobody. And there's just like one old person who could kind of get 90% right. So like imagine you live in a situation like that. Now I have to go all the way to Munich, right? And in Munich, there's a few more people that can say it, right? So it's like that. That's where we are right now. Like there's so much jahl. Like the level is so low that kind of like obvious things that basically everybody have done in the past are now like so the level is very low. It is. So the fact, like sign of the end of time, I'm teaching you fiqh, you know what I'm saying? Where it used to be just things that were things were that people would finish a lot of things very early, quickly, cover these things, and then you're now from the age, let's say for example, for 15 to 25, you're doing a lot of research, right? And you're researching into these different things, and there's lots more books that you're using, and there's a lot of connection. Just look at Bushra Karim, how much they're connecting to Egyptians. there's a lot of discussions happening, right? Um, but just we're in a situation right now, and there's lots of books that you don't even, like al-Ubab, where there's Ibn has a sharh on al-Ubab, and Ibn Hajar has a sharh on al-Ubab, and they always quote it, and we don't even have it. So that's it. This just indicates how low things are, right? The low level. So when you experience society at the low level, it's kind of silly. You see things that like, how is this so difficult? How is it not easy to find an answer? Does that make sense?
That's more contextual, right? Because I was thinking more of our books, basically. For example, if you take the sickness question in my head, that should be like looking up one page thing in my head. But apparently, it's more than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's so people have answered it in Tayammum. So the issue is it's there in Tayammum, so it might be obvious, it might not be obvious. And um, it might be that, there's like 10 books that we just don't have. There's just, you know, a lot of things, a lot of people have come and written things, we just don't have them, you know? And so if you put every single, also like you can every single time somebody writes a mukhtasar, they're gonna cut something out. So you're like, how is that not in the matan, you know? It's like, well, I can't write everything in the matan, can I? Because I have to keep the matan as a matan. So I'm going to cut certain things out. So then when somebody writes their sharh, they're going to go on angle A or B, right? There's five different angles they can go on. They chose to do one angle, not the other, you know. And then often they do the same angles. They go in the same directions. Like what's the classic discussions? So it happens. That happens, and then, but again, I just think it's just indicative of where we are. Allahu a'lam.
And probably they expect us to read between the lines, which we stop and we forget how to do that, which is why we then
Yeah, but if you think
yeah.
maybe there's like 20 shuruh that we don't have, you know? Because you look at these books, there's like the Hawashi on Baydawi, okay? Something like 10,000 Hawashi on Baydawi. Something like that crazy. Like how many of these books are printed? Not 10,000. There aren't 10,000 Hawashi on the Baydawi that are printed, you know? It's like we don't have it's just there like lists of books. You see people have this book and this book and this book. It's so many books you just don't have, right? So many books you just don't have. Allahu A'lam. And the level,
Barakallah.
and then imagine, for example, like a silly question like this. Like you walk in to accident emergency, right? You're like, why did it take me 4 hours to get into this door? Number one. Number two, why was I seen by somebody and then they left and left me for another 4 hours? Like it took me 4 hours to be seen, and then the person left. And then when I ask them a question, they don't know basic things. So then you ask the question like, hey, we're all volunteers here, we're all part-time. Like, why are you part-time? Like, why doesn't the state help people study medicine and make them doctors? Oh, we don't do that anymore, you know? So the state doesn't help people do fiqh anymore. There's no state that like helps people like, oh, I just want to do fiqh, like I want to do medicine. It doesn't exist. So what you could imagine, like medicine would become really lame. It'd become like really, or like, hey, like you know, imagine if AI was just a thing on the side. People just did it on the side, like there's no money in it. It's not going to go very far, is it? There's no money in it. So it's kind of interesting, but there's no money in it and nobody cares about it. It's for like nerds, right? But there's no money in it. It's not going anywhere. No business would ever use AI. Then it's going to take years and years and years to develop, right? So that's the other thing, right? It's like, look at my life, right? Look at my life. Look what I do. Um, you know, um, like I have, subhanAllah, like I have one student. Okay, I'm gonna just pause the recording. We did that. It says وكل من أفطر لعذر وغيره وجب عليه القضاء بعد التمكن. So you broke your fast because of something, but for a reason, without a reason. Um, so you have to make it up afterwards. إلا الصبي والمجنون والكافر الأصلي. Apart from somebody, a child who broke their fast, they don't have to make it up. An insane person who was fasting, they don't have to make it up. A kafir who was originally a kafir who was fasting doesn't have to make it up, right? He says, وَيُسْتَحَبُّ مُوَالَاةُ الْقَضَاءِ وَالْمُبَادَرَ بِهِ. It's recommended to fast day after day. So you had 3 days to make up of Ramadan. It's recommended to do it in a row and do it immediately. وَتَجِبُ إِنْ أَفْطَرَ لِغَيْرِ عُذْرٍ. And it's obligatory to do that. So you broke your fast for no reason. It's now Eid. The next day you're obliged to fast immediately. وَيَجِبُ الْإِمْسَاكُ فِي رَمَضَانَ عَلَى تَارِكِ النِّيَّةِ. We did this, right? Somebody who didn't intend, so somebody who didn't intend to fast, you were obliged to fast. You haven't done it, you were obliged to do that. Right? وَالْمُتَعَدِّي بِفِطْرِهِ. Somebody who broke his fast without a reason. وفي يوم الشك إن تبين كونه من رمضان. You were fasting on يوم الشك, right? On يوم الشك, and it turned out it was Ramadan. You're obliged to fast for the end of the day and do qada. Go ahead, Talib.
I think the commentary mentions a hasil, like scenarios in which imsak and qada are obligatory and which
Yeah,
they
I
are
didn't.
not.
He mentioned this house and I couldn't really understand it. I was like, I don't get it in Arabic.
Okay,
I don't get
I
it.
was about to ask you.
But it
Okay.
makes sense to me. I can understand the system, right? So he has the three scenarios, right? It's like this is going back here, right? So is this thing here? So I understand this. Where is it? So he said, if a child reaches puberty and the traveler becomes a non-traveler and the sick person becomes well while they're fasting, they have to complete their fast, which makes sense, right? You were fasting as a child, which is a valid fast. You reach puberty in the middle of the fast. Now the fast is obligatory for you, and you've already started fasting, you have to complete it, right? You were a traveler, but you decided to fast anyway. You arrived home in the middle of the day, you're obliged to finish that fast because now you're no longer a traveler, right? You were sick, but you decided to fast anyway, and now you're no longer sick, so you have to finish that fast, right? That makes sense, right? لِزَوَالِ مُبِيحِهِ. There's no more. There's no more. And it says, وَإِلَّا اسْتُحِبَّ الْإِمْسَاكِ. Otherwise, it's recommended, meaning you weren't fasting and then you arrived home. It's better for you to just not eat and drink. You weren't fasting as a child and then you reach puberty in the middle of the day. It's recommended for you to not eat for the rest of the day. You weren't fasting because you were sick, but now you're no longer sick. So it's recommended not to eat the rest of the day. Right. Um, that's basically
I meant like the well hasil
it's here, yeah. But
statement there. Yeah.
I can't. I'm like ظاهر باطن. What do you mean? Like you have to in reality, you have to. I can't understand it, but that's I get it. Like
Oh,
I
okay.
I get the idea, but I can't connect it to this. Like it doesn't don't quite understand what the way he's saying like ظاهر and باطن. I don't know what he means by that really. Anyway, so وكل من أفطر لعذر أو غيره. We mentioned that. Okay. ويجب قضاؤه على الفور. Right. So يجب الإمساك في رمضان على تارك النية. You didn't intend. You have to make this up immediately. والمتعدي بفطره. You broke your fast for no valid reason. You have to make it immediately. It was يوم الشك. وفي يوم الشك إن تبين كونه من رمضان. And you were fasting يوم الشك and then it turns out that it was actually Ramadan. يجب قضاؤه على الفور. It has to be made up immediately. Why though? يجب الإمساك. So he says على المعتمد للتقصير بعدم رؤيته مع رؤية غيرهم له. So there's basically a level of taqsir, like you should have seen it. Like how did you not know? So إنما لم يجب على الناس النية الفور في قضائه لأن عذره أعم وأظهر من عذر مفطر يوم الشك. 1 second. So the first person makes sense. You broke your fast for no reason. Of course, you have to make it immediately. Yom shak, the issue there is Yom shak is the issue that you should have known. That's the issue. ويجب قضاؤه أي يوم الشك المذكور كغيره مما تعدى بفطره على الفور على المعتمد لتقصير بعدم رؤية الهلال مع رؤية غيرهم له. Right? So why didn't you see it? Why did everybody else see it and you didn't? How did you not know that it was Ramadan when it turned out it was Ramadan? Okay, وإنما لم يجب على الناس النية الفور في قضائه لأن عذره أعم وأظهر من عذر المفطر لأنه له حيلة في إدراك الهلال بخلاف ناس النية لا حيلته في دفع النسيان كذا قالوا. Okay. Okay. So you have to make it up immediately. فصل يستحب تعجيل الفطر عند تيقن الغروب. Right, you know that it's Maghrib. It's recommended. It's permissible if there's dhan. Right. So he mentioned here as well. Where is it? أو ظنه بأمارة قوية. So you are 90 to 100%. It's recommended. Say, let's say 95 to 100%. It's recommended to break your fast immediately. 80 to 95. You may break your fast, but you don't have to. 50-50, it's haram to break your fast. I can hear my voice is breaking up. One, two, one, two, one,
It's
two.
fine now.
Okay.
That's okay, Nasha.
Okay, وأن يكون بثلاث تمرات. We did that. فإن عجز فبتمرة. Didn't we do this last week? I'm trying to think. فإن عجز فبتمرة. فإن عجز فالماء. Once we mentioned this, I'm almost certain, right? So he said هي وقدم الروياني الحلوة على الماء. So something that is naturally sweet is better than water. So rutab and then dates, fruits or something like that, and then water. والمحب قدم ماء زمزم على التمر. So while better than dates would be water, zamzam, right? والقاضي, and I couldn't remember I think this is Mawardi. القاضي means al-Mawardi, right? قدم ما يأخذه بكفه من نحو نهر لأنه أبعد عن الشبهة. We mentioned that. Because you are making sure that it's genuinely halal. And then ويسن أن يقول عنده أي عند إرادته, breaking it when you're about to break your fast. اللهم لك صمت, for your sake I fasted, and upon your rizq alone I break my fast. وتفطير الصائمين, right, the sunnah of giving food to others, right? And so Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali, he mentions why is it recommended is because people don't work in Ramadan. So people would just stop working Ramadan, and you now giving them food, it means they can survive the month. وأن يأكل معهم, to eat with them. والسحور وتأخيره ما لم يقع في شك, and it's recommended to have suhoor and to delay it as much as possible, as long as you're avoiding doubt, right? والاغتسال إن كان عليه غسل قبل الصبح, and to make ghusl before Fajr comes in. If you need to make ghusl, it's recommended to do that. ويتأكده ترك الكذب والغيبة ويسن ترك الشهوات. We spoke about that as well. فإن شاتمه, if somebody argues with you, you say تذكر أنه صائم, he reminds himself that he's fasting. وترك الحجامة والمضغ وذوق الطعام, and it's recommended to not do hijama, and it's recommended to not chew on something. right? Obviously, if you swallowed it, it'll break your fast, but you don't not chewing on something is recommended, and not tasting food is also recommended. So it says here, بل يكره خوف وصوله لجوفه, right? It's offensive if because you might swallow something. So it says نعم إن احتاج إلى مضغ نحو خبز لطفل ليس له من يقوم به أو لتحنيكه لم يكره. So it says, however, نعم, if you need to chew something up, for example, for a like bread, for example, for a baby, right? You chew it, then you can do that because there's no one else to look after the baby, right? So something like that. So notice how it was makruh and then it became no longer makruh for like a need. That's a consistent pattern, right? A consistent pattern that the haram is there's a huge mafsada in it. So you need a huge maslaha for the haram to become halal, right? There's a lot of harm in the haram, so you need a huge benefit to make the haram become halal, right? As opposed to makruh, there is a small mafsada in it, so you just need a small maslaha to outweigh it, right? And so that it's no longer offensive and such that it becomes recommended, for example, right? Okay, and so it says والقبلة, to not kiss, right? في فم أو غيره, on the lips or otherwise. واللمس, right? So kissing is going to be offensive. Whereas this is وَلَمْس وَنَحْوَ ذَلك, and touching وَإِن لَمْ تُكْرَهْ, even if it's not offensive, right? وَتَحْرُمُ, kissing is haram in خَشْيَ minha, if there is a possibility or fear that it might lead to ejaculation or it might lead to intercourse, right? وصح تلخص الشيخ في القبلة ونهي الشاب عنه قال الشيخ يملك, right? So it's so basically for fear of leading, if you fear leading to intercourse or fear leading to ejaculation, then it's going to be haram. Go ahead, Talib. Otherwise, it's offensive. Go ahead, Talib.
Is it actually saying that, for example, shaking hands with my wife without desire is khilaf al-awla?
Is khilaf al-awla.
Interesting.
So not even high five.
That will be hard, but I'll try, inshallah.
Yes. Illa li maslaha, right? Does that make sense?
If there's something to congratulate her, and she
Exactly
needs a
on.
high five.
Yeah. So you say, yeah, but you're such a disappointment in my life that you have to make something otherwise to make it congratulate you, right? No, I'm joking, right? But there's many of these things, right? Many of these things you say, oh, like that's the default, right? Just like the default is you should follow the strictest position, right? Unless there's some kind of benefit, right? Your dad, your wife's dad just died, so you're not going to give her a hug. So sorry, I'm fasting. Deal with it. It's like, wow, that's pretty bad, right?
Ouch.
Yeah, you're a psycho. May Allah protect us, right? So it's like it's a weird situation, right? So anyway, you have to illa li maslaha, right? So you say no, but that's makruh. It's like it's not makruh anymore, or it's not. You say so when you say it's sunnah not to do that, illa li maslaha rajiha, right? That's always unless there's some kind of overwhelming benefit, right? That's this kind of always assumed there. So we never miss the sunnah. That's wrong. Like this is recommended, I'm just not going to do it. That's wrong. But you miss the sunnah for other important sunnahs. Like, why don't you go to the masjid? Well, because I'm at work. Maybe we should go to masjid. I know, but I'm at work. So this is Allah wants me to be at work more than He wants me to be at masjid. Right? Or He wants me to sleep more than He wants me to go to masjid, or whatever it is. That's how it works, right? Okay. So there's one question that so previously I had found this a long time ago, which was anything like any sexual activity was haram during fast. So for example, looking at your wife with lust, right? Looking at your wife with lust, it should be haram. But that's not really what they're saying here, right? So here it says basically doing something that, right, in khashya minha al-inzala or al-jama'. That's what we're interested in. Not because it's sexual. Does that make sense? So, Allahu alam. It seems like there's a bit more dabt that needs to be there. Allahu alam. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, ويكره, it's offensive. السواك بعد zawal, to do siwak slash washing your teeth, right, after zawal, right? So washing your teeth is slightly different because you're actually putting toothpaste in your mouth, right, which is going to be offensive. So again, I have a what's it called? I have an ulcer, and I can get rid of my ulcer by washing my teeth, for example, 5 times a day for the next 2 days, and the ulcer will go away. But now I'm fasting, so I can't do that, right? So there's something different. You have an ulcer, right? Just make sure you don't swallow the toothpaste, that's all. But otherwise, the normal situation where you have a siwak, you wash it, squeeze out the water, and it's just moist, but there's nothing dripping off, right? Um, then that's fine, right? You can put that in your mouth. But it's offensive to do so after dhuhr, according to the school, right? According to Imam Nawawi, it's totally fine, right? ويستحب في رمضان التوسعة على العيال. It is recommended in Ramadan to be generous towards one's family, right? Now, I honestly think, and then I might just sound like some kind of old school angry guy, that we are already too generous to our kid. The fact that you live in the West, you're probably already too generous towards your family. You know what I'm saying? Like you already eat every day. You already eat meat at least once a week, you know? So like really it's like recommended to like give you like I think basically not every, but like most children in the West, they're already spoiled anyway. You have electricity, you make spoiled. You don't have to go and get water. You don't have to go and do this. You don't have to go and do that. You can go to the bathroom in your house, you know. That's not in England you see lots of houses that the outhouse is still there, right? There's the building, but then the bathroom is still at the end of the garden, but it's just connected with walls now. But that's how it used to be, right? No electricity, no flowing water. You want water, you go to the well. Gonna go to the bathroom, go outside, right? So, Allahu alam, right? Maybe I just sound like a grumpy old man. I don't know. Am I a grumpy old man? Who knows? But just like, can you say, give your spoiled kids even more, right? Like, really? Okay, what about all these starving people, you know? So it's a genuine question I have to ask myself, right, as a father, and we all have to ask ourselves is, are we ruining our children by giving them too much? You know? Allahu alam. يستحب في رمضان التوسعة على العيال, to be generous towards one's family. والإحسان إلى الأرحام والجيران, and to be extra kind to your family members, extended family members, and your neighbors. وإكثار الصدقة والتلاوة والمدارسة, and to give lots of charity and to recite Quran more and to do mudarasa, right? To find out what it means, right? Very, very important. Um, so just mention in general التلاوة في المصحف أفضل إلا إن حصلت فائدة بها عن ظهر قلب. لم تحصل بها من المصحف كخشوع وتقوية حفظ. So it says reading from the Mus'haf is there's better than reading from your memory, unless there's some particular benefit. For example, when you read from your memory, it helps you focus more. When you read from memory, it helps you review. Right? It's recommended to face the Qibla and to recite aloud. So again, if you want to destroy your tajweed, recite quietly. Right? On the provision that you're not showing off, and on the provision that you're not going to distract somebody else. Right? Go ahead, Talib.
What did you say about destroying one's tajweed?
Yes, if you want to destroy your tajweed, recite quietly. Like you want your tajweed to go back, become really bad, then just recite quietly and don't recite aloud.
So is it like an actual goal we should have?
No, no. I'm saying it's a very bad thing to do. Like everybody sits there and you quickly recite quietly to yourself and your tajweed becomes very bad,
Okay.
right? Like my English, when I speak, it's very unclear. Like when I speak, I don't enunciate letters, so it is very hard to understand what I am saying. So that's what happens with your tajweed. You eat all of your words, the tajweed goes out of the window, and it's really, really bad. Whereas if you recite aloud to yourself, you can hear your mistakes and you're like, oh, it's like this and like that. One of my friends and teachers, he said, kids should always have male Quran teachers because female Quran teachers are too quiet. So what happens is the worst situation, you have a female who studied with another female. So they can't hear certain things, certain subtleties in tajweed. So then what happens? They pass on errors, and that's not good. So a female who studied with a man is fine, right? But for kids, they should have a male, little kids should have a male Quran teacher. Pronounce things clearly, properly. Like this is how we pronounce them. And i'tikaf, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, in i'tikaf, it's in the Shafi school is very easy and something we should promote among other people is the idea that you can do a 5 minute i'tikaf, right? So we're at work, we have things to do. You can turn up at the masjid, and while you're having iftar in the masjid, you intend i'tikaf, right? Um, he says, لا سيما العشر الأواخر وفيها ليلة القدر. He says, especially on the last 10 days, right? Um, so as we mentioned, basically, Laylatul Qadr is usually in the last 10 days, and it is usually in the in the odd nights, and it's usually in the last 7 days of those 10 days, and on the odd nights, and it may well be the 27th, right? But it's not necessarily the 27th. So which book talks about this? Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali's epic book, Lata'if al-Ma'arif, which deserves to be translated, right? It's a really, really important book. He says, وَاخْتِيرَ أَنَّهَا تَنْتَقِلُ فِي لَيَالِ الْعَشْرِ الْأَخِيرَةِ. Many have adopted the position that it actually moves around. So I remember Habib Umar visited on the day that was preceding the 27th. He visited Amman, and I met with him. Sheikh Noor was there, and Sheikh Noor had asked, he's like, you're traveling tonight, right? Like, so you're traveling on the 27th. It's a bit odd, right? And he said, yeah. He said it moves around, right? Allahu alam. And some have claimed that it's even outside. It even moves around outside of Ramadan as well. But here's a big mistake that people do. Okay, I'm going to stay home for Maghrib and Isha, and we're all going to, after Isha, we're going to all go to the masjid for Laylatul Qadr, right? Why is that stupid? What's more important, praying one fard in the masjid or praying the whole night? Right?
Like
So
congregational prayer is important.
is super important, right? It's like the building blocks, like the five pillars are the building blocks of Islam, and praying in a group in the masjid is the building blocks of that, right? So it's like they're really important structure. Who cares about Taraweeh? That's like extra. Who cares about Laylatul Qadr extra? You know what I'm saying? Like that's not fundamental. So assuming that we're praying in the masjid to begin with, right? Or assuming that you could do both, right? But if it's like, oh, I can either be there for Taraweeh, right? Or I'm going to be there for Maghrib and Isha. You should be there for Maghrib and Isha. Can't do both. You should be there for Maghrib and Isha, khalas. Right? So here we don't like understand the maqasid of the deen, right? Maqasid Sharia. Like this is really important. The fard, like this is the pillar of society, right? That the fard prayer is happening in the masjid, right? That there's a group prayer. So it's really, really important we understand those fundamental things, right?
I was really shocked to find out that the rawatib are actually emphasized more than Taraweeh.
Yeah. So this is really the fruit of fiqh is Allah, what do you prioritize for me? Like I want to do what you want me to do, but I don't know what you want me to do, and I don't know when there's a conflict which of these things takes priority, right? And there's key things, right? There's key things that are really important. So, people don't understand many of these things, right? So what's more important, doing a khatam or understanding one page of the Quran? Okay, well, understanding one page of the Quran, otherwise what's the point, right? So the asl is that the Sahaba spoke Arabic and understood what was being said to them. That's the asl, that's the default. The default is prayer is a class. So the Prophet ﷺ didn't lecture people for a long time, but he did lead them in prayer for a long time. Where you're reading the Quran, right? But it's like you have people who have never read the Quran in any language that they understand, right? They have never read it. It's like you don't even know what it says. Like you're a stranger to it, you know. So it's a huge problem. Right? Read the Quran in a language you understand. Like, 'cause otherwise, how are you applying it in your life, or even how are you attempting to apply it, right? Okay. And then it says, وسميت ليلة القدر لعظم قدرها أو لأن الله تعالى يقدر فيها ما يشاء يقدر فيها ما يشاء. So it's from qadr meaning destiny or qadr meaning worth, not power. So it's not called the night of power, right? ويقول فيها اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عني. And he says in it, oh Allah, indeed you are pardoning, you love to pardon, so pardon me. ويكتمها ويحييها ويحيي يومها كليلتها. Right? And he should hide it, he shouldn't talk about it. And so he says, why? لأن رؤيتها كرامة, because seeing Laylatul Qadr is a miracle. وهي لا ينبغي إظهارها. You should not talk about your karamat. Shouldn't do that. Right? So there's an exception, right? Like a Sha'rani in his book, what's it called? Lata'if al-Minan. So in Sha'rani talks about his miracles, right? And so you shouldn't do that, right? You shouldn't value your miracles. You shouldn't be proud about your miracles. You shouldn't, and if you think, yeah, I must be a righteous person, this miracle happened to me, you're lost, right? It's a sign that you're lost is that you rely on your miracles, right? So my wife says I'm really horrible, but it can't be true because this miracle happened to me when I was 19, you know? It's like, like you're lost, you know? Like I miss Fajr all the time, but I must be of the awliya because this miracle happens to me. Miracle doesn't mean anything, right? It doesn't make you a righteous person. So all you know is that a miracle is something not normal happened. You don't know if that's good for you or bad for you, right? It could be a test, right? So like a miracle is like intelligence or money. Or I'm really intelligent. Wow, you're really intelligent. Does that Most people who are really intelligent are proud, right? Most people with lots of money are proud, right? You know, I walk into Congo. I have a Swiss passport, I have an American passport, and a UK passport. So I can turn up in England whenever I want. I can turn up in Switzerland whenever I want. I can turn up in the US whenever I want. I do not need a visa. I don't need anything, right? US passport, British passport, and Swiss passport. You got a Congolese passport. Like, what can you do? You can't even leave the country, right? You can't do anything. You apply for a visa, can't go anywhere. You're like stuck, you know? So here's power. I've been given power and freedom that they don't have. Is that good or is that bad? Well, it depends how it makes you feel. If it makes you feel brokenhearted that Allah's made things so easy for you and so hard for other people, then it's fantastic. Otherwise, you got a problem, right? So being proud about your miracles, it means it's not a miracle. That's what it is. Right? وتجب you're proud that you've memorized the Quran. That means you haven't memorized the Quran. You don't understand the Quran, aslan. Right? May Allah forgive you. We're proud about whatever. وتجب الكفارة على. So okay, that's that. Inshallah, we'll stop here. Inshallah, تجب. Inshallah ta'ala. Okay. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Okay, Jazakum khair, guys. So, see you. So, I think we're stopping, right? Yeah, we're stopping Ramadan, but there is a class, Ramadan class of fasting, inshallah.